the counselors who are not speaking will answer your questions. I just want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Miss LeMake. I'm one of the counselors for 10th through 12th grade. And I'll tell you in a little bit who else is with me and what part of the alphabet they have. The first thing I would like to go over is the agenda for tonight. We're going to go over an intro to the counseling department, who everyone in the counseling department is, graduation requirements, junior conferences, which are going on now here in February. Looking ahead, the checklist that we're going to do for graduation for seniors, where we check the second semester of the juniors' transcripts, options to make up credits. That's for any students that might be a little bit academically behind. A little bit about the SAT and ACT differences between the tests and when to take the test. Tips for colleges, some financial aid information, and then finally some information on Maxwell and Grayson Tech. And for those of you who are entering, again, I just want to mention, please mute yourself upon entry, and please use the chat box if you have any questions. The first person I want to introduce to you is Miss Bessie Perez, and she is the counseling office manager. She does all these things, and I'll go ahead and let you read through all those things that are listed there. But the main thing I want you to remember is that you can go there if you want to make an appointment or call her to make an appointment with the counselors, or if you need transcripts for college, which will be coming up next year. All the students will have to send their transcripts off to college. She'll be there for that. The next is Mrs. Julie Reitenauer. She's our registrar. She's new this year. She helps a lot with coming and going of students, transfer students, and helping counselors to record their records. But the main thing I want you to remember about her is that she helps input the Social Security numbers, which are needed for Hope Scholarship. And she helps with data update forms where parents must come in to update their address if something has changed. So they're making sure they get report cards to the right address and any communication from the school to the right place. And then we have Mr. Mascara, who also inputs the Social Security numbers. And he is the one who mainly prepares the transcripts that are ordered through My Payments Plus. So anybody who is paying for a transcript, there's a charge of $5. They would go through My Payments Plus to ask for a transcript, and then they would say where they want that sent. Anything else that they need to check on with regard to that, they can check with Mr. Mascara. The registrar, so Mrs. Reitenauer, is next to the curriculum office in room 12.141 in the A building. So if anybody has any Social Security numbers that they need to drop by the school, remember, we'll only take a copy of the card or the card itself. That's where you would go for that. And if you forget, you can always give your copy of the card or the card itself to your counselor. And then we have a wonderful college and career specialist, Miss Tamika Kimbrough. She helps with a variety of different things, including she has college information. She helps with college applications. A lot of parents maybe have gone to school themselves, but they have not applied for college electronically. She will help with that. Financial aid information. She has reference books, including SAT and ACT prep books to help students study for those tests. She is the one who is in charge of fee waivers for the SAT or ACT. And fee waivers are available for students who are on free or reduced lunch. So that's the way you get a fee waiver. And you just have to contact Miss Kimbrough about that. And it's dependent on whether or not we have enough left in our office as well. She helps with career information. She organizes career fairs. She helps with military information. So if anybody wants to sit down with a recruiter and talk to them about what they can offer them as far as college options and other things, they can do that by contacting her. She keeps our scholarship information straight. She updates our website. She helps with the financial aid forms, which every student needs for Hope Scholarship and any other form of aid. And mostly that will be filled out during their senior year, and usually from October to December or January, sometime around there. Career interest inventory. She helps with career interest inventories for the students who are confused about what they want to do, not sure what they want to do. They can make an appointment with Miss Kimbrough and she can help figure that out for them. She helps with the NCAA with Miss Melhorn. So if anybody is playing for a Division I or Division II school at college, she'll help them register for that. And then she provides computer access. So she has a lot of computers down in her area, because a lot of times she'll show students different tools to use and they can use them at home. So she'll show them on the computer how to use those things. And you can schedule an appointment with Miss Kimbrough during lunch and advisement. Students can come in just as a walk-in, or they can schedule an appointment the same way that they do with the counselors, with either going to see Miss Perez or seeing us at Counselor Corner. The College and Career Resource Center is across from the Credit Recovery Lab in the cafeteria. This is what it looks like. It has the entrance, the office area, resource areas where there's tables where they can sit with admissions reps or those military recruiters, the computer access, and the books, like I talked about, the SATs and ACT test prep resources that we have. Now I'm going to introduce the PHS counselors. So caseloads have changed from last year. We do have to adjust every year and make sure that everybody gets about 500 on their caseload. So Mrs. Salo has A through CREW. There's Miss Salo. And then Miss Alls is CREX through HOWE. And she's here tonight. Miss Alls, you want to come on for a minute?
I'm on.
Oh, there you are. Okay. And my last name looks confusing, but if you just remember, it rhymes with bank, LeMank. It's HOWF through MONT, and I'm Miss LeMank. And Mr. Walker has MONU through SANC. Mr. Walker, if you just come on for a minute.
I'm here. Hello, Mr. Walker.
Okay. And last but not least, we have Mrs. Fernandez, who has SAND through Z. She has the rest of the alphabet. Miss Fernandez, you want to say hello to everybody?
Hi.
Thank you. And then I do want to mention our wonderful ninth grade counselors. We have Miss Melhorn, who is currently out on maternity leave, and Miss Odom, who is LI through Z. So Miss Melhorn has a sub, Dr. Appling, who's in her place right now. And they may sometimes meet with students on an emergency basis if their counselor is not available. So sometimes we have a counselor on call, which rotates every day. And if there's true emergencies, such as suicidal outcries and things like that, then we do have somebody who would take care of that. The counseling office staff contact information is listed on the website under the counseling tab on the Parkview website. If you'll notice, Mr. Walker, he must not be the only one in the county with the name Charles Walker, because he has an R in the middle of his name. So just try to remember that and make sure you go to the website to click on our email addresses. If you do need help, students are can come see us in the counseling office lobby before or after school. And in the cafeteria, we are available in the counselor corner on Mondays and Tuesdays during lunch. Our office hours normally are 6:45 a.m. to 2:45 p.m. Monday through Friday. And next, I'd like to turn it over to Miss Alls, who is going to go over promotion requirements.
Yep. Good evening. In order for your student to be considered a senior next year or in a 12th grade advisement, they have to have at least 17 credits by the end of this school year, or at least if they're making up something by the summer, they have to have 17 credits. As far as graduation requirements in the state of Georgia, students have to have 23 credits in order to graduate. 4 credits of language arts, 4 credits of math, 4 credits of science, 3 credits of social studies, 3 credits either that falls under a career, tech, foreign language, or a fine arts in any combination. But for entrance requirements at Georgia colleges and universities, they have to have 2 years of the same foreign language. Then they have to have 1 credit in health and PE, and then 4 credits of any kind of elective, which gives them a total of 23 credits. And we make sure when we go into the classrooms that we tell students, please make sure you talk to your counselor about what your graduation requirements are versus just asking a friend about graduation requirements. Again, this year, we're going to be doing an SAT administration during the school day, where it will be administered for free to all juniors. So just make sure that your junior, they'll automatically be signed up for the SAT for all. We still, which they'll talk about a little later in terms of the SAT, but make sure that they take the SAT or ACT this semester. When we meet with our juniors, we do a credit review form where we go through all of the total credits that they have at this point, how many elective credits they have. We talk about what any testing requirements are for graduation, which The gateway doesn't exist anymore. So there's no like standardized testing that they have to take for Gwinnett County Public Schools anymore. We'll review with them what their remaining requirements are for graduation. Appointments are being scheduled now, and they will be throughout the rest of February. So if you would like to have a meeting with your student and your student's counselor, make sure that you contact them regarding scheduling an appointment for a meeting to review everything that they need to know as far as moving into their senior year. We also encourage students, if they fail something first semester, if they're interested in going to Maxwell School of Technology or Grayson Tech next year, that they also make an appointment to see us, because the applications for Grayson and Maxwell, they will end those applications by February the 23rd. For next year, every senior has to complete a senior application for graduation. The senior applications for graduation can be done individually with the counselor. Sometimes we'll do them in small groups, or we have also done them in a large group setting. And the applications have to be done usually by the end of October or the very beginning of November. And on the form, when we meet with your student, it will be updated to include everything that they finished the end of this semester as a junior, or if they had to go to summer school. But every student has to complete a senior application for graduation. If your child needs to make up credits, there are different opportunities for them to do so. We have a credit recovery program that's done through Georgia Virtual Schools. And if your student failed a class with a grade between a 50 and a 69, then they're eligible to take classes through credit recovery. There are only specific core classes that are offered through credit recovery, but again, that's one option for them to be able to make up for a course. It costs $0, but if you have to re-enroll for the same course, then it will cost them $25. Another option is Phoenix High School. They operate on mini semesters. Like right now, their third mini semester is taking place, and it's from January to March. The next opportunity to make up a class at Phoenix after school would be from March until May. The student would have to have their own transportation to get there because it's located in Lawrenceville, but each 0.5 credit would cost $150. But there's an opportunity for them to make up the classes Monday through Thursday after school. Phoenix is also this year offering a Flex 7th period. The third mini of the Flex has already begun, but they're going to do a fourth mini of that as well. Transportation is not provided with that, but they're able to do the Flex more so online. There's some flexibility where they don't have to all just go to the campus for those classes. But there are only certain classes that are offered through the Phoenix Flex 7th period. And of course, it's $150, 0.5 credit. There's also Gwinnett Online Campus. Gwinnett Online Campus is already closed for this semester, so they can't register. The registration has ended for that, but the classes cost $250 per credit hour, and they're done completely online, except students have to go face-to-face for their exams. And then the last option for students as far as a Flex, or making up credit, would be summer school. We don't have the information for summer school quite yet, but during the summer, they can take up to 2 classes for 1 total credit hour. Usually summer school is offered at 3 schools across the county during the summer. So when the information comes out, it will be posted on the Gwinnett County website, and we'll also provide information about summer school to your students as well. Another important thing for your junior to do is create an account through Georgia Futures, and they would go to georgiafutures.org to create this account. What they need in order to create the account, they have to use their name that appears in our system or on their transcript. Georgia Futures is a great resource. As a senior, they can send their transcript free to colleges in the state of Georgia. It also provides information about career, college, financial aid planning as well. So if they don't do anything else, they need to go ahead and create their Georgia Futures account. Students can also, with using their Georgia Futures account, they can check their Hope GPA. In order for them to be able to access the information or to even see their Hope GPA, they have to have their social security number on file. If they're missing their social security number, then you can have them to go to our registrar's office with a copy of their social security card. If you feel comfortable, you can also email it to her, so we can input it in our system as well as put the information in georgiafutures.org with the Georgia Student Finance Commission. If there is no social security number on file, they won't be able to review any of that information. They can't send transcripts. And most importantly, if they qualify for Hope, if it's not there, then that information is not going to be there for the colleges to know that they qualify for the Hope Scholarship. And I think that is the end of my portion of the presentation. Next up will be Mr. Walker.
Okay, and so for my portion, we're kind of talking about the SAT and ACT. These are college entrance exams, but make no mistake about it, these are high stakes exams, very important as it relates to college admissions. So you have to check with individual colleges to see what they require. Of course, the highly selective schools, if we're gonna be real about it, and the Ivy League schools and private schools. An example of a private, it might be like Emory or Mercer. Ivy League is like Yale, Princeton, Stanford. They're gonna want you to have one of the better SAT scores in the country. So a perfect score is a 1600, an example on the SAT. So you wanna kind of be hitting 1300, you know, on a bell curve, like to the right side of that curve, 1350, 1400. And honestly, to hit those numbers, you're gonna need SAT prep, more on that in a minute. So to register for the SAT, you have to kind of register well in advance, as previously stated. Wait, go back one slide. As previously stated, you have a test coming up, but that's on March 26th. The county paid for that test. Waivers were mentioned earlier. So if you get free reduced, you don't have to pay for the test. It's quite expensive. So we want you to take it more than once. But before you take the test, we want you to prep for the test. The best time to take the test is usually in the spring of your junior year. Why? Because you've covered 3 years of math. For an accelerated kid, you know, you're gonna be better prepared because you covered a lot of the math. Or if you guys started your math in 7th and 8th grade, that kind of thing, your high school math, you'll have a score comparable to a high school senior. What messes up a lot of seniors, since you're rising seniors, is you guys missing the deadline. So I wanted to kind of touch on that. Make sure that you register 30 days before the test and understand it takes about 30 days to get your scores back. Therefore, that last bullet, taking the SAT after December, will mess you up, especially if you're gonna do early action. We've already talked about waivers. Next slide. All right, so nothing to say here, just kind of proof positive, look at the dates. Kind of observe the dates, see how far, it's not quite 30 days, but almost 30 days, about 3 weeks in advance. So do save the dates, look at the dates, take a screenshot, do what you do, but kind of remember the dates. This is what messes up a lot of seniors. One little footnote, it's probably not going to be test optional next year, guys. Like the senior class, except for UGA Georgia Tech, it was test optional. Y'all probably going to need an SAT score next year. So really be thinking about SAT prep and taking the test. Next slide. SAT reminders while registering for the test, take advantage of sending 4 scores. Very important. So they charge you for everything. Like when we talk about post-secondary planning, post means after high school. The bottom line is anything that's related to after high school costs you money. So if it's a college admission exam, it costs money. If it's sitting for the SAT, it costs money. And so, just kind of keep that in mind. So there's an opportunity to send your scores for free. If you sit for the test and as your register is going to ask, or do you want to send your scores to the college, you can send up to 4 for free. Let's see. And it's just a charge. It's not much to say on this. And that's something that you guys are responsible for. It's like a third-party company when you're talking about the College Board and the ACT, the American College Test. So you're responsible for sending your own scores. So keep that in mind. So next slide. So back to the more on the SAT prep. Yes, we talked about Ms. Kimbrough, our wonderful college and career specialist. She takes walk-ins periods 4 through 6. Appointments are preferred. She will take walk-ins. She's in demand. She's like a one-stop shop. She's like Walmart. She does everything, but one of her many talents and skills is helping students with SAT prep. And her help and support is free and or inexpensive. You have to be creative and resourceful, to be honest with you. Because SAT prep is not cheap it costs money. So some of the household names that students go to, some of the commercial companies might be like a Kaplan or a Kumon or a Sylvan. Some of the partners that we have that we've been using for years, like Parkview, Lilburn, might be Cornerstone Academic. And one of my favorites that I love to endorse, we know the owner, is Total Learning Concepts. And so that gives you an edge on your test score. When I was talking about getting in the upper register, SAT prep, not only do they do the diagnostic to deal with the gaps, learning gaps. After that, they start working on test strategy, on your speed, and answer this question, not that question, those type of things. And it might be the difference in 100 and 200 points. Khan Academy is a free resource that was kind of created by the Bank of America. You could use it not just for SAT prep, but to kind of learn math. It's like YouTube videos with certified math teachers teaching. And directly on the websites on College Board or ACT.org, you could get SAT prep resources. I also always recommend the students go to the Media Center, use our librarians and say, hey, do you have free and or inexpensive SAT prep materials? You could also go to the Gwinnett County Public Libraries, like the one on Five Forks, and say, hey, do you have free or inexpensive SAT prep materials? Also do study groups. Get with other kids that can afford it if you can't afford the private vendors. All right, next slide. Common App, huge. I saw a few questions in the chat about this. So what the Common App is, guys, is like, we want you to apply to a lot of colleges. And so that's expensive. Just to be frank, the applications could be from $25 to $35, $50, $75, and in some cases up to upwards to $100. Imagine if you do 8 or 10 applications, that could be $500,000. So save your money if you're not free reduced. But something that saves a tremendous amount of time is doing the Common App. For each college, you may have to do an individual application. If you don't, use the Common Application. Therefore, counselors, we want to work smart, not hard. So we strongly recommend you use the Common App. Not all colleges use the Common App, but that's rare. Like 99% of them use the Common App. So if I were you, I'd take advantage of the Common App. The benefit is that you do one application and it's universal. It goes to all the colleges. There's a few ways you could apply for college. You could use your GA Futures account. Also, as mentioned earlier, you can send transcripts and stuff to GA Futures. It's also like Walmart or One Stop Shop, do a lot of stuff on there. But yeah, use the Common App. We endorse it. That's kind of what we use. Also, you're gonna have to match that Common App when you create the account. And you do need to be doing that, juniors. You need to match it with your Naviance account. The way to do that, next slide. I think the next slide kind of speaks to it. Okay, no, so, but I'll talk about this in a minute. Let me finish that thought. So you're gonna go to counseling, hover over that and click on information for seniors. And then click on the Naviance stuff and it shows you how to match your Common App to your Naviance account. That's very important that you guys know how to do this. Now, as a junior, this is one of the most important things that you're doing. Not just GPA maintenance, not just SAT prep, but we came to the classroom for the parents that might be on and we had this conversation. You need to kind of be figuring out your college list. And I'm gonna get to the next slide in a second where we talk about reach, range, and safety. But to pick a school, these are things you wanna look at. So everybody, while I take a breath, just kind of look at the bullet points. A lot of factors. You wanna look at the cost, right? You wanna look at the environment. Is it safe? You wanna look at the size. Like if your child doesn't learn good, and if they don't work independently, then a school where there's one professor, the ratio is like 1 to 300, a big auditorium, that might not be a good fit. Is it all girls? Is it all boys? Is it predominantly Black? Is it predominantly white? Do they have my major? This is huge. And so we kind of went into this in detail in the classrooms, but this is kind of where you guys should be picking out your colleges, and don't just pick all colleges that are like highly selective and private and Ivy of that variety and hard to get into. Next slide. Here we go. Reach, range, and safety. And this is kind of what I was getting at. If we apply to only Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, Emory, you may get into one of those schools. And that's why we recommend you kind of have a nice mixture. I would say do maybe 2 applications to a school. That's a 50-50 puncher's chance. We call that a reach, like a stretch. Like you're gonna get serious consideration, but it's like, you know, onslaught of applications, a whole lot of people applying. I wouldn't kind of put all my eggs in that basket. So don't go crazy with the highly selective schools. So maybe 2, and then you want to have your safety school. That's your backup school. That means you're overqualified. But your range school, that's where you want to have the bulk, you know, of your applications, maybe 5 or so. And so you kind of make your own look. You manufacture good news by being smart about your applications. Also, it's a non-refundable fee, guys. So those, like again, those applications are not free. And so you don't want to be doing applications if you're not serious about actually attending the school. So that's another thing that I'll keep in mind. Now, keep your grades up. Touched on GPA maintenance. Here's the why. You guys, as you know, you don't get grades until the semester ends. And so hear me good. If you don't hear anything else I said, and I'm saying a lot, the college admission decision is going to be made based on the grades you earn 9th through 11th grade. All right, colleges do use a sliding scale, and they'll look at your SAT. You know, basically, the lower your GPA is, the higher your SAT has got to be. But if you're going to push that GPA up, this is the last chance to do it, because the early action deadlines are often due in October, November. So the grades that you make this semester, that's it. So really focus. You know, we usually get on our seniors about getting senioritis, but I'm gonna call this junioritis. Don't get junioritis. Keep working hard. Next slide. All right, so about these college visits. It is not an excused absence, but we'll kind of treat it like an excused absence. I know it's kind of confusing. The only things that are excused are like, God forbid, a death in the families, sick day, or religious reasons. But if you pre-arrange to be out, you will be able to make up your work without grade penalties. So you want to get in touch with the attendance office and say, hey, you know, I need to do a pre-arranged college visit, that kind of thing. I always about those visits, don't just show up on the scripted days where they're expecting you. Do both, because you know the college is gonna put their best foot forward on like the day that you show up and they're expecting you. I would talk to some of the alumni of the school or show up on a day where they're not expecting you, just to get a real feel for what the campus is like. So yeah, next slide. Yep, so we kind of touched on this already. Early action is what I want to point out. And this is, of course, for my high achievers, you guys that want, and I do recommend that you do early action, to be clear, because you get 2 shots at admission. If you get waitlisted or deferred, Like take UGA, for instance, during a regular decision, and that's usually that window's in January. If you got waitlisted or deferred, they're gonna look at you again. That means they're not saying no, it's like purgatory. They're not saying yes. But they want you, but it's like they're kind of holding you. It's a holding pattern. And so if you do early action, it gives you the chance to potentially get admitted later. But those early action deadlines are just what I told you, October 15th. Therefore, the SAT score needs to be, the hay needs to be in the barn. Another thing, note on SAT, you need to keep taking it, take it more than once. I'm sure that's buried in one of these slides. Make sure you take it multiple times because it's like a super score, and colleges will take your highest score. Make sure you prep, just kind of hope for the best. You want to actually study, and be careful with early decision. It's like a binding decision. I don't like early decision, and if you do early decision, you want to make sure you have funding to go to the school because you can't get out of it. So, and counselors have to sign off on an early decision. So the takeaway is do early action. And I do say early action is preferred because you get 2 shots versus the regular decision window. Next slide. Oh, that's it. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Hi, everyone. I'm Miss Salo again. I know it's been a while since we introduced ourselves, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the ways to fund college, because as you know, college can be expensive, and there are a couple of ways to help pay for it and make it a little bit more affordable. So one option, if you're new to Georgia, most students and parents that have been in Georgia have heard about Hope Scholarship and Zell Miller Scholarship. They are both still a thing. Some people, there's been some things out there about Zell Miller being a thing or not, but it still is. So I'm going to tell you guys the differences between these. Okay, so Hope Scholarship, what is it? It's a state aid program. So Hope Scholarship will pay for the tuition, so for part of the tuition for Georgia public schools. They do pay some for private colleges, but they're more expensive, so it pays a smaller amount. And this pays for the tuition. For part of the tuition is what Hope pays for, a percentage of the tuition. But students do need to have a 3.0 core GPA to qualify, and Hope is not going to be determined until after your student graduates, okay? So it's determined after they graduate. And they have to have a 3.0 core GPA. So when you look at your student's transcript at the very bottom, you'll see like an overall GPA, that's everything. The core GPA is different. It's only the language arts, math, science, social studies, and foreign language classes. Now it includes all of those classes. So if your student has taken like 5 or 6 sciences, all of those count towards that core GPA. If they've taken like 3 or 4 foreign language classes, all of those will count towards that core GPA. And again, Hope Scholarship pays for a portion of the previous year's tuition. Now this year's freshmen right now, Hope Scholarship is actually paying for all of that tuition this year. That's something that is voted on by the state each year, and there's like the colleges have like tuition that they like agree upon. So this year it happened to be that percentage amount was actually for full tuition. We do not know what it's going to be like by the time your students come in. We don't know what it's going to be like for our current seniors going in the fall. That's something that the legislative in the state of Georgia will decide, I believe, in March. So we do hope that they continue to do that, but we don't know for sure. So again, Hope would pay a portion of the previous year's tuition. And that's something that if you want to see those award amounts, you can see that on that gafutures.org website. It's another reason why that website is so great. You can view the award amounts for Hope versus Zell Miller on that. And you can see for the public colleges in Georgia and the private colleges. And again, this is a state aid program. So Zell Miller Scholarship, the difference is Zell Miller will actually pay for all of the current year's tuition. But because Zell Miller pays more, it's a little bit harder to get. So students have to have a 3.7 core GPA. And again, that is determined after they graduate high school, so all 4 years, or they have to be the valedictorian or salutatorian. So one of those 2 things. And in one sitting on the SAT, they have to make a 1200, or on the ACT, they have to make a composite score of a 26. And that's one sitting, so one test date. So if they do take that SAT in March and they don't quite get it, they can try again and like take it in like June or try to take it next year, but it's only one testing date. They will not combine scores for that. Now, Hope Scholarship, say your student gets really close, but they just don't quite get to that 3.0 core GPA by the time they graduate. They can earn Hope Scholarship when they get to college. After a certain number of hours, they could be eligible if they do earn that. Zell Miller, they can only earn right out of high school, so they wouldn't be able to earn that once they're in college. And like I said, they pay for that Georgia public colleges and a smaller amount at private colleges for Zell Miller because it's harder to get, so that's what they're looking for. So also to qualify for the Hope or Zell Miller Scholarship, students do have to have 4 courses off the rigor list. Here in Gwinnett County, your students don't need to worry about that. We make them take a rigorous course load anyway. So example, those 4th math options, those are on that rigor list. The chemistry's on there and physics, and we make students take that to graduate. Those 2nd and 3rd years of foreign languages, those are on there. There's a lot of AP classes that are on there as well. So typically your students do not need to worry about this. They'd probably have more than enough even already. But if you're like me and you're a double checker, on that Georgia Futures website, you can go there and you can get a list of all those classes that count towards the rigor requirement. So Hope Grant, what Hope Grant is it's another state aid program, and they pay for for a portion of the tuition for students that are seeking a certificate or diploma at a Georgia technical school. So Hope or Zell Miller Scholarship, those are for degree programs. So associate's degrees, bachelor's degree. Hope Grant is for those certificate or diploma programs at Georgia technical colleges. Now, the good thing about Hope Grant is there is no high school GPA minimum to earn it, but they do have to maintain a certain GPA at certain checkpoints to keep it. And if you want to see the amount, there is the award charts on Georgia Futures for the Hope Grant as well. And Zell Miller Grant will pay for full tuition at the technical colleges for those certificate or diploma programs. And again, there's no high school GPA minimum to earn the Zell Miller Grant, but you do have to maintain a certain GPA at the end of each term in order to keep it. So Hope Career Grant, right now in Georgia, there are 18 industry fields where they are in demand, which means we have more jobs than people to fill them. So because of that, the state of Georgia, the governor or the state, they are paying for training for these programs. So right now in Georgia, these are those 18 industry fields where they have more workers, or they need more workers in these fields. So they're going to pay for training for these programs, and there's a job available for your student afterwards. So you can kind of look through that list there. Just as an example, the reason that the state's doing this, y'all know they're filming a lot of movies here in Georgia. And as you can see, movie production and set design is on there. And that's because they want to make sure that they keep filming movies here because it's a lot of revenue for our state. So that's why they're paying for training for these programs. And these programs don't take very long to complete. They could take maybe a year to 2 years after high school, and there's a job waiting for them. So if you are interested and you or your student learn more about that, you can go to that website at the bottom. You can actually click on a program that your student may be interested in, and it shows you all the schools that offer that program. And so other ways that you can look for scholarships. There we go. So on Part U's homepage, under counseling, you can click on College and Career Center. So that's Ms. Kimbrough's website. That's our college and career specialist. She has tons and tons of information about financial aid and scholarships on there. She also will hold different virtual events, or she'll have in-person events to help students and parents locate those scholarship monies. But we did want to highlight the ones that are specifically open just to juniors. So the ones that are listed right there, those are scholarships that only juniors can apply for. So that means that the applicant pool that they're applying for is a lot lower because only juniors can apply. So if that's or anything you want to look at, those are on her website. And she has a lot more. We just wanted to highlight the ones on there for juniors. And we wanted to give you guys a little bit of info about like a scam warning. So there is a lot of people out there trying to take your money. You never, ever, ever have to pay for a list of scholarships. You have that for free. Okay. That's on our website, on Ms. Kimbrough's website right now. Okay. Never pay for a list of scholarships. If you see any of those taglines in there, those are people trying to scam you, and chances are they're giving you a list like we just gave you. So don't even have to worry about that. And then a word about email etiquette. This is for your students. So just kind of remind them when they are setting up those personal email addresses, make sure that they're using an appropriate email address. So that's like first name dot last name, first name, middle initial, last name, something like that, because whenever they use those email addresses, that's something that we're going to see, teachers or admissions officers, and we want to make sure that they have a good opinion of them. So just encourage them, make sure they have an appropriate email address. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Fernandez.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ms. Fernandez. I'm going to start off my slides by talking about Maxwell School of Technology. It's located in Lawrenceville, and currently they're going to be having an open house on February 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. If anyone is interested in attending, applications are now open and they will close February 23rd. The school does provide busing to and from Parkview for any student that is interested in attending. I'm not going to read the whole list because there's kind of a lot on here, but some of the programs that they do offer are culinary arts, early childhood, flight ops, graphic design, HVAC, law enforcement. So if you guys kind of want to look at this, that'll help your students choose what kind of program they'd be interested in if they choose to apply. Next slide, please. We're also talking about Grayson Tech tonight. They are located in Loganville. They're going to be having an open house on February 6th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Applications again are now open and will also close on February 23rd. Grayson does also provide transportation to and from Parkview, and some of the programs that they offer are law enforcement, culinary arts, music, vet science, and sports medicine. Next slide, please. Again, registration is open and will continue through February 23rd. Students can apply in their eClass or GCPS portal under the Maxwell and Grayson Tech registration link. And they have until February 23rd in order to do so. All students are encouraged to have a resume for next year. Students need to be prepared to write up a record of participation or resume in their senior language arts class. This resume needs to include awards, extracurricular activities, community service activities, any jobs, or really anything that makes them look good that they want included on the letter of recommendation. This will be given to counselors and teachers when they're ready to ask them for a letter of recommendation, because this is how we write letters for your students and include everything you're doing from this year and next year. Next slide, please. Students are encouraged to get involved to build their record of participation. If they do want to join a sport or club, they can go to Parkview's website, and under the activities section, they can locate any sport or club that they're interested in. We do have like a little drop-down box over here. So once they click that, they can look at everything that we have available at Parkview, and they can then go research that information, talk to any staff member that is a point of contact for that, and join whatever it is that they feel suits them best. Next slide, please. And students do have the opportunity to become an honor graduate. Students will be an honor graduate if they have a 90% overall average by the end of the first semester of their senior year. The curriculum office will reach out to students that are considered honor graduates, and further details are listed in student agenda books if they need more information regarding that. Right, the summary of goals for junior year. First is attending this virtual junior parent night, which we're all in now. Juniors will need to meet with their counselors to review their credit. Counselors will call them in, or they can schedule appointments. And if a parent wants to join their student in the meeting, they may schedule an appointment with the student's counselor. You are encouraged to email or give the counseling office a call, and we can make the appointment with you guys. Juniors should be taking the SAT and or ACT this semester. They need to start looking for what they want to do for a career and what they would like to major in college. Pick several colleges and universities that they can apply to in the fall of their senior year. Make sure to visit some colleges and universities. The summer is always a great time for this, but if they choose to do this during the school year, they do need to get a prearranged absence form from the attendance office. And we want them to stay active and join clubs, so they can add this information to their resume, so they can keep track of their awards and activities. and preview scholarships, which most will be available for seniors, but we did include some junior scholarships here tonight. Next slide, please. And thank you all so much for joining our Zoom information session tonight, and I will turn this back over to Ms. Lemay.
Hello, everyone again. I just wanted to thank you again for coming out tonight. We do appreciate your support. We did present this to your students in their junior language arts classes, so they have seen it before. But we were hoping that you would help us reiterate some of the things that we have gone over here tonight. If you have any additional questions, please email your students